WebAssembly seems to be the hot topic in web development right now. You also hear a lot about WebAssembly in the .NET environment at the moment, but mostly in connection with Blazor. But I think it could also be interesting to use WebAssembly with .NET in an existing JavaScript application. In this video, I want to show you a concrete example. I'll be honest with you, I think WebAssembly can be a game changer. I have some experience in .NET development, specifically web development, and as such I'm used to having to make API calls to an ASP.NET backend in a web application to perform specific C# functionality. The idea that I can now do this directly in the browser using WebAssembly is really intriguing to me. However, if you look into .NET and WebAssembly, you will find that it is often about Blazor WebAssembly. Without a doubt an interesting technology, but what if you already have a web application that is based on React, for example, and you want to execute selected C# functions in it? You won't find much information about this on the web. However, you can find some information, including an article from Microsoft that describes how to create such a project. The most interesting part of this article for me was the installation of the necessary .NET workloads. Once you install these on your computer, you get new project templates for Visual Studio, WebAssembly Browser App and WebAssembly Console App. I started with the WebAssembly Browser App and created a new project with that template. This gives us a project that contains a program.cs file with a sample class that contains a method that can be called from JavaScript. It is called greeting. The getHref method is intended to call a JavaScript function from C#. The main.js file is where .NET is loaded and executed, and where the sample C# method is called. The index.html file is a very simple one. It is loaded when we start the project and loads the main.js file. When everything is loaded and initialized, the text generated by the greeting method is rendered in a diff in this page. When we execute the project, a new browser window opens showing us this simple page with the greeting message generated by the C# method. Not very spectacular, but enough to show how it works. Then I started to extend this sample project a bit. I created a new C# library in which I installed a NuGet package called PdfPig. This library allows you to read and write PDF files. I then created a new static class called PdfCreator with a method called createPDF. This method takes two parameters, title and content, that we want to render in the PDF file. Then I used the PDF document builder from PdfPig, added a new page of size A4 and added a new font. Then I added the title as a header with a larger font size and then the content with a smaller font size. Finally, I built the document and returned a memory stream containing the PDF file. To test if this simple PDF creator works, I created a unit test project with a unit test that does nothing more than call the createPDF method and write the result to a file. The resulting PDF looks like this. Does not look too bad if you ask me. But now let's get to the interesting part. Let's try to use this PDF creator in WebAssembly. To do this, I create a new class in the WebAssembly project. I just call it PDF helper. I make the class partial. This is important to make it callable from JavaScript. Then I create a new static method. I call it createPDF and this method expects the title and the content as parameters, just like the createPDF method we saw before. And then my first try is to just call the PDF creator method and return the result directly. We need to do one more thing to make this method callable from JavaScript. We need to specify the JS export attribute on the method. But we already see that this does not seem to work, as Visual Studio gives us an error here, basically saying that streams are not supported in WebAssembly, so we need to try something else. Instead of returning a stream, let's try a byte array. In this case, we need to take the stream from the PDF creator and copy it into a new memory stream object. Then we call the memory streams to array method to create a byte array and return it. Obviously, this approach does not cause a compiler error, so we should be good to go. Then I'll modify the index.html file. I simply add an input field for the title, a text area for the content and a button to create the PDF. All three UI elements are given an ID so I can access them in JavaScript. Last but not least, the main.js file needs some adjustments. First, I make the C# PDF helper globally accessible via the window object. Then I create a click handler on the button I just created in the HTML file. Here I first read the values of the title input and the content text area. Then I call the C# method with the title and content and write the resulting byte array into a variable. This byte array is used to create a blob object and then I start a download of this blob. To download, I create an object URL for the blob, then I create an anchor element for that URL and call the click function to trigger the download. And that's it. Let's see if we can execute this whole thing. I start the project by simply pressing F5 and a new browser window opens. We have the two input fields and the button, so let's give it a try. I enter values for the title and content and press the Create PDF button. And so I get a PDF file that looks like this. So I think that was pretty easy. Of course, this is just a very simple example, but I think it shows very well how you could integrate C# code into a web application without using Blazor. What do you think about that? Does it look interesting to you? Do you have a use case for WebAssembly in your web project? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, I would be very grateful if you would give it a like. Feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching and see you next time.